Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey there, hello, and welcome to whatever this is. Oh, yes, it's Lynn Cullen Live. That moniker is not quite right today. I'm semi-alive. It being a dreary Monday, and I encountered all kinds of difficulties. I was trying to tweet, and this is so odd. You know, these so-called smartphones, they're too smart by half. Is that a phrase that means anything? I kept trying to type something in for my tweet, and it kept changing it. It would not let me type what I wanted to type. It thought that I was incorrect, and it kept correcting something that, in fact, needed no correcting. It drove me insane. The word I wanted to type, was trying to type, and only made it once, was Sexbot, Sexbot. Now, granted, that's probably not in the lexicon of the smartphone, but it is something that I was trying to tell people is coming soon to a brothel near you. Sexbots. Or what else do they call them? Prostabots. Or what? I suppose it wouldn't let me do that either. It kept changing it to, what did it change it to? It's. Sex its. What the heck would that be? And then it kept putting a space in between sex and bots. And it was driving me nuts. I think it finally let me do it once, Sexbots. But yeah, this is on the frontiers of technology, folks. Here I am complaining about technology, but it says right here, I'm reading it, so it's got to be true. In the next 5 years, it will be possible to build lifelike robots. And what I mean by lifelike is they are going to look exactly like, feel like, and move just like we do. Jess and I were freaking out a few weeks ago looking at probably one of the prototypes of this kind of technology, and it was a robot that was running like a human being runs. Absolutely, the leg motion was every bit as fluid, and then the robot dropped to the ground and started doing push-ups. It looked for all the world. And then there were other robots whose face literally did look human, and who spoke, and its eyes moved in a way that seemed human. The slightest teeny little muscular movements in the face, in the jaw, and the cheeks was all there, so that a baby who on this video was held up to the robot clearly took it for a human. Clearly did, and who can blame the baby? And the baby was doing to the robot what the baby would do to anybody, sticking its fingers and, and touching it, and not in any way being put off. Bizarre. So coming soon, gone will be the, robots that look clearly like mechanical people, and coming soon, these robots that are going to be indistinguishable from you and me, which creeps me out totally. So, they can obviously be programmed to do anything. And this article was about these, what they were calling prostabots, really. You could, if you have enough money, you can definitely buy your own to order exactly whatever your sexual fantasies would require that robot to be and or do. It is so creepy. And they said that the sex industry, which of course is huge, all you have to do is note that this age of technology that we're in and the creation of the internet showed us what's the most popular subject once people have the ability to seek out whatever information or material they want. It's porn. So, I mean, some people say, look on the good side. That means that you'll be able to have safer sex because robots won't get STDs. They will be able to be sterilized after each use. But here's somebody saying, yeah, but wait a minute. The fact is that robotic sex slaves, while they are right around the corner, are still going to be much more expensive than trafficking in human beings. So it's not going to protect all those young girls who get snatched up and essentially sold into slavery, which does go on more than any of us can imagine. Oh, God. What a world we're heading into. So there you got it. I just wanted to let you know the frontiers of technology. Everything, every nightmare thing you could imagine, and in some cases, every wondrous thing that you had hoped for. Maybe cures to diseases that were, thought to be impossible, and all the the good and the bad. But gee whiz, prostabots, I'm sorry. Hello.
Hey, Lynn. May I be the first to blow Rick Santorum's mind and request that I have the legal right to marry my sexbot?
Well, you know what? That's in this article too.
Oh no!
Did you see it? They say that, so what's going to keep people from marrying their sex bots? You can create your absolute perfect mate. How creepy is this?
That sounds like something could go awry. I'm sure there's some sort of Asimov or some sort of science fiction book that addresses this subject, but
I'm sure too.
Philip K. Dick or something, but
it's just, so creepy. Did you ever see, there was a marvelous movie with starring, I want to say, Ryan Gosling. Lars and the Real Girl. Thanks, Jess. Lars?
No.
Oh! Anyone who has not seen that movie, you got to see it. And you will love this movie. Lars, L-A-R-S, and the Real Girl. And it is about an awkward man, maybe Asperger's or something, who buys or orders one of these sex robots. And it's a blow-up doll. Right.
Oh, okay, because they do make these ones even that are beyond blow-up dolls. They're like rubber.
Right. She's rubber, and she has all the proper orifices, and he dresses her and develops a relationship with her.
Oh, you know what? I have seen that. I didn't realize that was Ryan Gosling.
That's who that is.
I think I have seen that. Yes.
I think it is it's a heartbreaking, heartwarming movie. When I first heard about it, I thought, again, my reaction was, ugh, how creepy. How could that And then it's I thought it was just a wonderful movie.
You're right. I have seen that. And I think at the end he does kind of get over it, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He does.
Uh-oh, spoiler alert. Now we
that was right. But it was it was like a beautiful, lovely, it was unbelievable. And then what was so sweet is how the church and the whole town, he'd bring her to church. He'd do all this stuff. He put her in a wheelchair and brought her everywhere. And everybody just went along with it for him.
That's right. I think in that case it was actually useful as a sort of therapeutic tool to get him to actually kind of start to deal with real people. So in a way, I think these sex bots will also have that sort of effect maybe on shy people. Maybe it could be used as a therapeutic thing, too.
Yeah, but if you saw this same article, here's the one that creeped me out. Here's the line. And it's so creepy I didn't even want to share it, but now that you're here, I'll do it.
Okay, good.
It said, oh, here's the good news. Maybe even sexual predators, instead of abducting victims, will just order a sex bot to spec.
Oh.
And if they want a robot that looks like a young child, they can do it. Or a wrinkly geriatric, if that's what they're into. They can have it. But so you can see people saying,
or a pit bull for Rick Santorum.
Oh, dear God. Can you imagine
I don't know if you even want to see it, but someone sent me a link of this robotic buttocks, actually. So it was a sex butt, B-U-T-T.
That's all it was a sex butt?
Yes, and but they said it was the most advanced because it could react to a slap or a finger touch or a caress, and it would tense its muscles and move its muscles.
I can't stand it.
I'll send it to you. It's a YouTube video of them and how they made it.
Well, see, but that's like this other YouTube video that Jess and I were looking at. They can do with his face. It was a head of a human being, and if you had seen this, you would not be able to know that it was a robot. Its face was so expressive. So, yes, every little, you know how even a cheek will sometimes quiver, or you'll see that somebody's like, maybe clenching their teeth. And so there's a little movement in the skin of the face. That is the kind of thing that this robot was doing. Its eyes could look sad. Its eyebrows would come together and it would look sad, and then it would look happy. Ew. Oh, God, I'm telling you, my nightmare image is so going to come true. I thought I'd be dead before it happened, but I'm not so sure now.
Well, Sam said it. He was the robot overlords.
Yep.
But we didn't realize they would actually be robots.
Robots. Whatever you want, you can have.
Well, I don't know. Sounds like a marriage made in heaven.
Oh, my God. All right, send it to me, maybe, and if I'm feeling, strong and I haven't just eaten, I'll look at it.
Okay.
Oh, God. Bye, Michael.
See you later, Liz.
Bye. Oh, God, what a world. Okay. Sexbots. And so I suppose that my smartphone is going to have to catch up. Sexbots. David writes, I bet Santorum is having a stroke. Yeah, right. Well, it doesn't take much when the subject is sex to get Rick a Twitter, in fact. Speaking of pals, and I just want to tip my hat to the folks who organized so quickly that protest against Governor Corbett receiving the Pittsburgh Opera Award for all that he's done for the arts and education. A really great turnout and to the point, got yourself a lot of attention, and I'm sure couldn't have helped but get the opera board's attention as well as, I think there's no doubt they lost some of their subscribers over this. Somebody emailed me, I'm going to say, and I've since dumped my email from last week. Somebody emailed me, and forgive me for not giving you credit, I think it's Ramsey, that the president of the board of the opera is also the president, I hope I get this right, of Mark Advertising, which just landed a 1-year contract to do the advertising for the Pennsylvania Lottery. So, again, connect the dots. CEO, Mark Advertising, huge lucrative contract just awarded from the state, and all of us, and also the same person sitting as the head of the board of the Pittsburgh Opera, and lo and behold, the governor's getting this huge award. I mean, that's just another reason why you see that those in power are totally interconnected in so many ways. So even when they're supposedly doing wondrous work in the nonprofit community, they're paying back people that have done them favors in their workaday corporate lives. I'm not much different than the 18-year-old girl who left Green Bay to go to college and started reacting with absolute horror and astonishment as reality was opened up before me. I mean, leaving the shelter of my home and finding out that things weren't as, I guess, I thought that they'd been sold to me. And I became so angry. You know, I learned about the Vietnam War. I didn't have a sense that there was a war in Vietnam when I was in 1966. In the first part of 66. The second part of 66, oh man, I knew. And I became angry at that, and then angry about, what I found out about the treatment of black people, and angry about, because I lived in Lily White, Ozzie and Harrietville, in Green Bay, and even taking classes and finding out that what my teachers had taught me about American history, not quite right. That's not quite right. It was a little more complex than that, and here's this and here's that, and and it just, and I'm still like that, I think. I still have this sort of like childlike sense that, well, why don't people just do the right thing? Why are they? I'm still confused by that. And I will be till my dying day. I don't understand. I don't get it. So I'm I don't know. People say, well, why are you depressed? Why am I depressed? Because look! I mean, that's just my state, but I fight it all the time because there's no point in going through life in a state of depression. But I react as a depressive to everything, and reality, it's sort of hard on depressives. It brings you to that. I love that answer from, what's his name, Jackson's wife, Samuel Jackson's wife, the actor's wife, on how she could be married for 40 years, because he's a difficult guy, and she just said amnesia. And I think that's another way to live life fully. It's amnesia. Just, okay, take the stuff in and then let it go. Let it go, or you're going to get bogged down. And some people, by nature, have that capacity. They're capable of empathy and capable of, blah, 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 but they can let it go, and others just can't. Others just can't. And I feel for them. Oh, my dear God. I don't know. There's a poster someone just sent me that's horrific. I don't even want to talk about it. Oh. It's a picture of a hoodie with a target on its front, and there's no one in the hoodie, but the hoodie also is holding some Skittles, and it's obviously Trayvon Martin. But speaking of hoodies, there was also something in the paper today about the fact that Wall Street was offended when Mark Zuckerberg came there last week to, I guess, ask for investment dollars. And he showed up at his meetings with the high and mighty of Wall Street in a hoodie and jeans. And they were not happy that he didn't show them the proper respect. And somebody immediately, because in this day and age with the internet again, people can respond to this kind of thing immediately. Some designer came up with a pinstriped hoodie for Zuckerberg to wear next time he happened to meet with, yes, the high, the mighty, and the deranged of Wall Street. Okay, take a break here, and we'll return momentarily. Quickly.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Opera, City Theater, Symphony, History Museum, and Carnegie Museums. Bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. Check out this week's big deal. Over 40% off authentic laser lipo treatments from FDA-approved Zerona. Bergbargains.com.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. The difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. Studies prove that reading to a child regularly dramatically improves reading skills, and kids who read well by 3rd grade are 4 times as likely to graduate. So United Way is calling for 1 million volunteers over the next 3 years. We're asking you to step up, make a pledge, tutor a child who needs help, mentor a kid who needs someone on their side, volunteer to read to children, make a difference. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Entire communities improve. The path to success or failure starts long before graduation day, and the difference between a graduate and a dropout could be you. Be a reader, tutor or mentor, give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge. Go to liveunited.org now. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Get Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All right, Michael has sent me the robot link, but I'm not going there yet. I might find myself, in a state of such, I don't know. What's the noun for appalled? In a state of appellation.
That's what I thought.
Well, it's not. There's no such word. Speaking of psychopaths, did I say psychopaths? No. Speaking of capitalists, did I say capitalists? It's Wall Street. That's it. That was it, Wall Street. That gets us to capitalists and psychopaths. There was a wonderful, and this brings us to, this thing with J.P. Morgan. No more than a blink after they almost took down the entire global economy with their unbelievably irresponsible, should-be criminal behavior. Bang, doing it again. Oh, and heads are rolling, but not the heads. Oh, no, not the heads. So, yesterday, the New York Times had an opinion piece which just it was written by an essayist named William Deresiewicz. I'm probably not getting that name right. Anyway, he is a critic, it says, and the author of A Jane Austen Education, which I have heard of. But he talks about capitalism, and he talks about the fact that studies show that rich people are more likely to lie, to cheat, and to break the law. And recall that other study that was done, I think recently, by recently I mean in the last year or so, that found that 10% of people who work on Wall Street are clinical psychopaths, exhibit the characteristics of a psychopath. 10%. In the general population, that number is under 1%. On Wall Street, it's 10 times that. And what is in that profile of a clinical psychopath? Well, exhibiting a lack of interest in other people, exhibiting a total lack of empathy. Tell me if this doesn't absolutely fit. An unparalleled capacity for lying, fabrication, and manipulation. And this essayist goes on to say, and Wall Street, what is it? It's capitalism in its purest form. And capitalism, he says, is predicated on bad behavior. It sure as hell ain't predicated on empathy. We know that. Or concern for one's fellow man. We know that. And this is one of those truths that the naive me, the idealistic me, had such trouble coming to terms with, and to a certain extent still does. So that I was finally able to come to terms with it by separating capitalism and understanding that it's an economic system. It is a way of ordering an economy, but it is not a moral system, and that you can't just have this economic system operating without a countervailing moral system, a social system, right? But where we have been heading in this country is there are people now who literally worship capitalism and see it as a moral system. That's what the Ayn Rands of the world are about. They think it is actually the system that encompasses everything we need to have. And so it's so important that people like this guy gets the point across again that capitalism in and of itself has nothing to do with morality. In fact, often quite the opposite. So let's look at the capital. Let's look at J.P. Morgan and Enron and BP and Philip Morris and the pharmaceutical company. Let's look at these guys. Let's look at their crimes: accounting fraud, tax evasion, dumping toxins into the common water and common air and common soil, product safety violations, bid rigging, overbilling, perjury. He says, just open up the business section on an average day. Shafting your workers, hurting your customers, destroying the land, leaving the public to pick up the tab. These are not anomalies. This is how capitalism works. You get away with what you can, and you try to weasel out when you get caught. I mean, if anyone's paying attention, you see that playing out, and we've seen it playing out. And yes. You can, I'll make the aside right now. There are people who work in this system who actually do maintain a moral center. There are some. My father was one. I know it. My father was one. He always said the only good deal, a definition of a good deal is when both sides walk away happy. A good deal is not sticking it to somebody. And he was appalled by people who thought that way. But they're in the minority, people like my dad. And he was often depressed at what he saw and the way other people operated. This guy says, I always found the idea of a business school amusing. I mean, what kind of courses would they offer? Robbing widows and orphans? Grinding the faces of the poor? Having it both ways? Feeding at the public trough? And then he does the aside. There are ethical corporations, he says. Yeah, and ethical business people. But ethics in capitalism is purely optional, purely extrinsic. To expect morality in the marketplace is to commit a category error And then he says this, which is so true too. Capitalist values are antithetical to Christian values. And I might argue to Jewish values, to Muslim values, to any religious values. They're antithetical. So he's still having trouble, this guy, William Deresiewicz, or whatever his name is, he's still having trouble getting his head around the fact that so many of the crazed Ayn Rand capitalists, like this Representative Ryan, are also very much God-fearing Christians, and they meld the two together somehow. When the two systems are antithetical, can't do it. He says something else, and this is true too. He says capitalism is also antithetical to democratic values. We've come to see that, have we not? Like Christian ethics, the principles of democratic government require us to consider the interests of others. Capitalism, which entails the single-minded pursuit of profit, would have us believe that it's everyone for themselves. I recommend this article for anyone wanting to look it up. It's in yesterday's New York Times, Capitalists and Other Psychopaths. And he puts the lie to this thing that the Republicans are always peddling, that the rich are job creators. He says, look, most of the rich are not entrepreneurs. They're executives of established corporations. They're institutional managers. They're some of the wealthiest doctors, some of the wealthiest lawyers, the wealthiest actors and entertainers and athletes. They're people who inherited the money and people who work on Wall Street. And they do not have any monopoly on brains or on sweat or hard work. He points out that some of the most brilliant people are scientists and artists and intellectuals, scholars, who are just as smarter as any entrepreneur, only they seek different rewards than filthy lucre. He says a single mother holding down a job and putting herself through community college is working just as hard, believe me, if not harder, than any hedge fund manager. A person who takes out a mortgage or a student loan or who conceives a child on the strength of a job that she knows she could lose at any moment, thanks to somebody like Mitt Romney and Bain Capital coming in, that person assumes as much risk as any entrepreneur who starts a business. And he reminds us, and this is one of those things the little 18-year-old me learned that first year in college that sent me into the fetal position. Our most destructive lie in America is that there is this ladder we can climb, that it is easy for any American, if they just put their nose to the grindstone, pull themselves up by the bootstraps, to make money. He says the lie goes on, and it's perpetuated really by those Republicans who embrace that lie, believe that lie, and refuse to let go of that lie. That the poor are poor only because they're lazy. The poor are poor only because they're stupid, they're evil, they're not risk takers, they're just a drag on all the rest of us. And that the rich are rich because they're brilliant, because they're hardworking, and because they're good. They are our betters. And they exist to shower their beneficence upon us. And that's what the Republicans, believe it or not, are still peddling. And that's what the American people, believe it or not, are still swallowing. They still are. Hope springs eternal, I guess. Capitalists and Other Psychopaths, recommend it. Also, from the New York Times yesterday, another recommendation on this subject by Tom Friedman, who is freaking out at something that a Harvard philosopher, Michael Sandel, is peddling right now. He's got a book out called What Money Can't Buy, The Moral Limits of Markets. This is the same kind of subject. And he points out something that we've all recognized and seen. I was listening to I was watching the Pirate game yesterday. Yes! 12th inning win. All right. And I tip my hat to all those people in the stands who sat through 12 innings of rain and didn't move. Unbelievable. I don't know that I would have done the same. Good for you. That's a fan. But everything is corporatized. Everything has a logo on it. Everything has a... I used to laugh at my synagogue in Green Bay because the only way they could build the building is certainly to have people in the community give money, and of course you could have a plaque on whatever your money maybe did. So they're like plaques on a toilet paper dispenser. And this toilet paper brought to you by Mr. and Mrs. Sidney Friedman. It wasn't that bad, but it just seemed like everywhere you looked, this hanger brought to you this book, this boot, this that, this wall, that. And it struck me as a riot. But at least those were people in the community who were helping to build their house of worship. Now it's the marketplace is moving in and taking over everything. Here's part of Friedman's column in which he is channeling a lot of what this Harvard philosopher Sandel is saying. Get this. I've never heard this personally, but get this. New York Life Insurance Company has a deal with 10 Major League Baseball teams. And here's the deal. Any time a player slides safely into a base, as soon as the umpire calls that runner safe, or I guess safe at home is where this kicks in. If a runner gets called safe at home plate, their corporate logo immediately appears on the screen, and the play-by-play announcer has to say this: safe at home, safe and secure, New York Life. God! And I hear that, and I want to say, get the hell out of my game. A player slides into home plate, safe at home, safe and secure, New York Life. Friedman, after reading this guy's book, is totally freaked. He says, I had no idea that in 2001, an elementary school in New Jersey became America's first public school to sell naming rights to a corporate sponsor. And then there was in exchange for $100,000, they gave up they from a supermarket. So, and where does your kid go to school? My kid goes to Giant Eagle High. By 2011, 7 states had approved advertising on the sides of school buses. Over the last, and here's then where the philosopher comes in and tells you why. I recoil at this stuff, but I'm not necessarily able to put in words why I know this is not good. This guy, the philosopher at Harvard, can do it. He says this. Over the last 3 decades, we have drifted from having a market economy to becoming a market society. A market economy is a tool. It's a valuable and effective tool for organizing productive activity. But a market society, you don't want that, because that's a place where everything is for sale. It is a way of life where market values govern every aspect of life. And we were just talking before, were we not, how the market doesn't have a lot of values. Intrinsic in the entire operation of the market is no values at all except profit. So he says, when we plaster our public schools with commercial advertising, what are you telling the student that goes to Giant Eagle High? You're teaching students to be consumers constantly. Everywhere they look, those logos are in there. You're teaching them to be consumers, not citizens. And I have been arguing this for 20 years, 30 years. Anybody who's listened to me all that time, God help you. I have said, in my lifetime, I have watched Americans stop being citizens. And because their government is coming at them like this, everything's coming at them like this, the private sector, the public sector, that they don't want us to be citizens anymore. They really don't. They want us to be another word that begins with C, consumers. And George Bush W. dotted the I and crossed the T on this right after 9/11, when he needed to appeal to the citizens of this country, and he didn't occur to him. He appealed to the consumers because that's what he considers us. Remember what he said? He didn't ask us to do something that citizens should do after their nation is attacked. He told us to go shopping. He told us to go shopping. I will never get over that as long as I live. So we are complicit now in teaching our kids that everything is for sale. And they're the buyers. We outsource our wars now, don't we, to private military contractors. We let the rich buy shorter lines at the airport. We let, anybody who can, the affluent now separate themselves totally from us. And I've talked about this before, and this guy brings up the same thing I say about how the baseball park used to be that great democratizing place where CEOs and the rich sat out there in the elements with everybody else. And now, of course, you have this skyboxification. They have separate elevators. There are guards. You go to PNC and Heinz Field now. You've seen them. There are these guards standing outside special elevators, special areas where you, the great unwashed, can't go, because the rich now do not want to have anything to do with the rest of us. They live behind walls all the time. And democracy doesn't flourish in a society like that. All of the institutions that used to mix classes together and strengthen democracy are dying. And the Republicans are killing off everyone that is still alive. Public schools, they want to wipe them out. Public schools, that's where I found out. That's where I met people who lived in different families than my own. That's where I ended up meeting people. So when I went to their houses, I saw that they didn't live like I lived. They didn't eat what I ate. They didn't interact with their parents like I interacted with mine. This is called education. This is called enrichment. And now all the rich want to do is be with their own. Oh, they'll throw in a few from the wrong side of the tracks, but they want to be with their own. And we are complicit, and again, the Republicans, I hate them. I'm sorry, I hate them. They're the ones who kept telling Americans, you're overtaxed, you don't want to, but Americans want stuff. So what do? We turn over to these corporations now what our taxes used to pay for. We sell off everything that we, the people, used to own. And now because we don't want to pay our taxes, our highways won't belong to us. Our schools aren't going to belong to us. There will be no public service. Says. Friedman writes, throughout our society, we are losing the places and institutions that used to bring people together. Unless the rich and the poor and the people in between encounter one another in everyday life, it's pretty hard to think of ourselves as one nation. And the marketization of our public life becomes just one more thing that's pulling us apart. He ends with a quote from Michael Sandel's book. Democracy does not require perfect equality, but it does require that citizens share in a common life. For this is how we learn to negotiate and abide our differences, and how we come to care for the common good. Think of what Republicans are peddling. If we go down the road that they're wanting us to come down, we will lose our democracy, we will lose our peoplehood, we will lose our values. And they've already managed to infect, hoodwink, bamboozle, mislead a good half of the country. Ray writes, appallment is the state of being appalled. Well, I am in a total state of appallment. The funny thing, and maybe an appropriate thing, he says, is that appalled has its root and definition in fear or terror, as in to turn white and faint, pall from pale. We use it as outrage, but it's true. We should also be afraid of what these evil people can and will do to us. Can, will, and are. I'll be back in just a minute.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for Joe Bonamassa, Parliament Funkadelic, Riverdance, and the Blue Man Group. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Avo and Vela wants to thank all of Southwestern Pennsylvania, the USA, and the world for helping to liberate his native country of Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea has suffered 43 years of dictatorship, 43 years of human rights abuses, 43 years of corruption, and 43 years of kleptocracy. Even with $5 billion in oil revenue in 2011, the 700,000 citizens of Equatorial Guinea earn less than $2 per per day. A proud Mount Lebanon resident, please help Gustavo and Bella usher in the 21st century by allowing freedom, democracy, and socioeconomic prosperity by the rule of law for the next 43 years and beyond. Email him at presidentandbella@yahoo.com to help free Equatorial Guinea.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, and, front page of the Post-Gazette today gives us this wonderful news. After June 1st, again, pulling away money from the people who can least afford to have money pulled away from them, kicks in when the Corbett administration plans to reduce the rate for home service providers in, and this is what's weird, just in southwestern Pennsylvania. I mean, this is the reimbursement for people who come into the elderly or the disabled's homes and take care of them or take care of, feeding them, whatever they need, so that they can remain in their homes as opposed to being warehoused in some god-awful nursing home. So this is for people of modest income, in frail health, who are trying to avoid being in a nursing home. And this is what they're cutting. Do you think they're cutting anything for the people that they call corporations? The people that are old, the people that are disabled, those are the people that the government needs to have as number one priorities. The least of us, the most needy of us. And when you have Republicans controlling government, they bleed those people. They bleed them. They can't do enough to give more money to the rich, more breaks to the corporations. Because, as you know, their mythology tells you that if you do anything and everything for those rich people, they will then take care of the unfortunate. This change on June 1 is going to create a loss of jobs. It's going to create personal havoc in people's lives. It's going to hurt their quality of life if they are going to have to be pulled out of their homes. And let me tell you, it's a hell of a lot more expensive to put somebody in a nursing home than it is to let them stay in their own home, to help them stay in their own home. So this is, as usual, short-sighted. If this is a money-saving venture, they don't even, and the Corbett administration has not explained why this is hitting only southwestern Pennsylvania. What's that about? There are cuts just in this part of the state? How come? And it can't get a straight answer. Okay, I'm moving off this stuff because it does get me in such a state of appallment. I can't continue. So, let me turn to another story that was on the front page today that drove me nuts. Here's the headline. Binkies and bottles can cause very serious boo-boos. All right, so now we got a new study out. So all these freaked out parents who don't let their kids touch dirt, who don't let, the sort of hysterical parents. They're everywhere. Now they're being told that their kids can be injured if they're walking around with a binky or bottle. Yeah, well, they can get injured too just walking around. I mean, this making life into a danger that you're supposed to, worry about is beyond me. I read this article and couldn't for the life of me find out anything. Yeah, so here they found out that there are kids being brought into emergency rooms because they fell down with a binky in their mouth. Okay. Why does this have to be a study? Do you know how many parents now, how many mothers are now telling each other about this? Oh my God! Oh my God! What are the names now? Oh my God! I'm sure Megan's out already. Megan has a binky in her mouth and she's moving! Get it out! Get it out! Oh, there's a bot. You know what I mean, the hysteria. Please! I hate it. Life is dangerous. There is no safeguarding every square inch of your child's existence. Sorry. You brought him into an imperfect world. Live with it. And living is not being padded from head to toe with constant nervousness about everything. Jeez. The first kid gets all of this in spades. By the time there's a second kid, their binky falls in a mud pond. The parent picks it up and puts it right back in their mouths. Where before, we'd run in, we boil, we this, we that. It's just absurd. Absurd. Everything's scary. I think if the marketers have their way, everybody will be in a constant state of appallment. And what I mean is a constant state of terror and fear, because scared and terrified people are easily led. You lead them to whatever's going to help them out here. This special kind of binky. This something. There's always something to buy that'll get you out of it. I know a lot of people don't sort of read the papers on the weekend, so there was another horrific, appalling story on the front page. I don't know if you recall, the kid from the North Hills somewhere. Can't figure out exactly where. Can't think. Maybe Wexfordish, who was brought to India for the summer with his mother. And he was not happy about that. But he went. He was 14 or 15. And then all of a sudden there was news that she had been found with her throat slit. And he had been arrested for her murder. And he was convicted. And he was sentenced to the maximum. For a kid killing their mother in India, you know what it is? 3 years. Well, no, it's until you turn 18. You can't. No, it's 3 years. That's what it is. I think the maximum was 3 years. How the hell do you have a sentence him to 3 years in a juvenile home, the maximum sentence for a minor in India? Well, heck, why wouldn't kids all over the place be killing their parents? I'd kill. I mean, you're mad enough at your parents at some point. I can see where I'd sacrifice 3 years of my life if I could kill them at the. You know what I mean? It's a wonder the more aren't killed. So anyway, that's an aside. So he was convicted, and then his attorneys appealed, and those judges said no, he's guilty as hell. It was appealed again to the Superior Court or something, and they overturned it. And he's coming home. And listen to this. I ask you. Here are the facts as far as we know them. You tell me this kid didn't kill his mother. They were staying at Reggie's Camel Camp, a luxury camp, and had toured local temples that day. On August 12th, 2010, according to police, the two had dinner, and Giancarlo, that's the boy, asked the resort staff for a knife. He said he needed it to cut some plastic packaging. The next morning, her body was found at the bottom of a sand dune near her blood-splattered luxury tent. Her throat had been slit with a knife, and a bloodied furrow in the sand marked where her body had been dragged. Giancarlo was arrested. Where? At the airport, where he was trying to get away. He was attempting to board a flight to New Delhi. And guess what else? His mom's documents were found in a wastebasket at the airport. He confessed, then he said he was coerced. Nobody has come up with any other person who could have done this or why he was at the airport without his mother, but her documents seem to be around him as well and in a wastebasket. And this kid and all of the people interviewed from around here are so happy he's coming back. Oh, I can't wait to hug him. Family friend so-and-so said the ruling validated her beliefs, and she's kept a photograph of him on her desk and prayed for him daily. She says he is gentlemanly and polite. I can't wait to hug him, she says. Well, watch your back, okay? Jeez. 3 years for killing your parents. God almighty. I don't know about that. I mean, in terms of deterrence, that certainly ain't up there. Okay, that's it. Tomorrow, my sister, and more conversation. Have a great day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.